My name is Bruce P. Grether, and I'm living now in a little town called Wimberley, Texas, in the hill country, kind of in between Austin and San Antonio. I was born in 1953, and it was probably early in 1954. I was born in New Jersey, in Princeton, and my parents came back to Thailand. This was during a furlough. They were Presbyterian missionaries sent to Thailand and stationed in Chiang Mai initially. And so I think it was early in 1954 that I came here, and we actually moved into this house. I think my parents were already living in this house. They had lived down by the river in one of the two houses. Dr. McGilvery's house was one, I think, and I'm not sure who the other house was originally for, or who lived there. But we moved back into this house after the furlough. So this is the first house that I remember, which is now the offices for CMIS. And I remember until I think about 4 or 5 years of age, we lived here, and I have very vivid memories of the house and the yard and where it was situated and what it was like at the time. The roads that are now paved, busy roads, were just little asphalt roads mostly. Over where the playing field at Payap was a rice field. I have 2 older brothers and an older sister, and my mom and dad came to Chiang Mai shortly after they had started their Thai language studies in Bangkok. And my father was sent here basically for the purpose of reopening the McGilvery Seminary, which I think was closed during World War II. So this was shortly after World War II. And as I understand it, the occupying Japanese forces actually used the seminary as their headquarters in this, at least in this province, in this area. And it was a beautiful old kind of Dutch colonial style building that was already kind of old, but very charming, just as this building has a lot of architectural charm too. We lived in this house until I believe it was sometime in the late 50s. We lived here until I was a small boy still, and a new house was built over at the edge of what is now Payap College. It was just across the rice field at the time. It's beyond the sports field next door to this campus. And the house is still there, and we lived there, I believe, until at least 1961. I remember that we were living in that house when Sinclair Thompson, who we knew as Tommy Thompson, was tragically killed in a train wreck. He was a good friend of my father. And I believe it was that year, later that year or the next year, we moved down to Bangkok, where we lived actually until 1969. And my father, after working with the seminary here and helping to get that going and reopened, my father actually worked on translating the Bible into modern Thai for the first time from the original languages, the Greek and the Hebrew texts, which the only Thai Bible that existed was translated, believe it or not, from the King James Version, which is poetic sounding but not very accurate translation or easy to understand. Actually, my mother worked along with my father, not at the seminary, but she worked I believe, in the Christian education field. Once she became fluent in Thai also. My mother passed away last year at the age of 93, going on 94. And toward the end of her life, she was very sharp till nearly the end, and we brought her a silver plate inscribed in Thai that we could not read clearly, and she flawlessly read it and translated this. This was at the very end of her life. So she retained that knowledge of Thai. She was actually an active missionary wife. She did have help with the household and the kids, as was traditional in those days, quite a lot of help. So she was actually working with the Church of Christ in Thailand, I believe. I don't know exactly what all of the things she did were, but she and my father both worked actively in the mission field and continued to do so in Bangkok till 1969. In 1969, we moved to Berkeley, California, which was kind of at the center of the countercultural revolution, and we actually flew directly over Vietnam during the war, so it was a very eye-opening experience. Okay, yeah, we flew home to Berkeley in 1969, And it was a very intense political period. It was during the Vietnam War, and
How old were you at that time?
I was 15 going on 16 in 1969. So it was really a time when I had been doing, I guess it was junior high in Bangkok, and I was I was not put in very advanced classes because I came from overseas and the records were incomplete. So I actually dropped out of Berkeley High School, took the GED, and went to college. And I studied fine arts for 2 years. And then I dropped out for 17 years. And I went to live in the Rocky Mountains for about 12 years in Estes Park, a beautiful, beautiful place that I encouraged by my education, including at what was called Chiang Mai Children's Center then and is now called CMIS. I pursued creative writing as well as painting, and after 12 years in Estes Park, I went back to school at CSU in Colorado, got my degree in English with creative writing concentration and history second field, which was really a wonderful experience. And then I ended up moving to Texas, and I've been living there ever since. And since I was very young, when I was 11 years old, I finished my first novel. And later we might talk a little bit about Miss Amala Rose Wood, and she was the one who set me on the path of relentless creativity. When I was 11 years old, I completed my first novel manuscript, but I spent many years writing first drafts one after another, so I never finished a novel until about 1988 when I moved from Estes Park and went back to school. Shortly after that, and I started rewriting and revising. So I now have a number of novels in print, and my most recent one is called The Purchasing Mother's Son, and it takes place at Ayutthaya 250 years ago. And I think so far it's my best piece, and it's a very interesting thing because I just spent two nights, 3 days really, at Ayutthaya before I came up to Chiang Mai shortly before that. And it was very interesting to visit the site, which I had visited when we lived in Bangkok, but to reconnect with it because I'm also researching a sequel to The Purchasing Mother's Son, which is called The Forest Spirit's Child. And it has very much to do with the roots of the Thai culture and also how European people and Western people encounter Thai culture and Eastern cultures in general. So this is part of the reason I'm here the second time this year, is to research for that. The Purchasing Mother's Son, it's the only novel on Amazon.com at this point with that title and with my name. So yeah, it's actually a story in which the major characters, some of them are European and some are Thai, some are Chinese, and they're fictional people, although there are some real people mentioned and involved, but all of the history and the Thai folklore are as accurate as they can possibly be made. So you will learn a lot about what happened to Ayutthaya, which is really not all that well known. People know that it was destroyed, but what really happened there?